Imagine a world where a single flower bulb, not a diamond or gold, could purchase a grand house. This wasn't a fairy tale but a strange reality in 17th century Holland during an episode we now call Tulip Mania. What began as a simple horticultural craze morphed into the world's very first recorded financial bubble, forever altering our perception of intrinsic value. We'll explore how a nation at its economic zenith fell under the spell of a bloom, only to witness its spectacular, if not devastating, collapse. By the end of this video, you'll understand why a flower can become a symbol of irrational exuberance even centuries later. The tulip, with its vibrant colors and elegant form, first arrived in Europe from the Ottoman Empire in the mid-16th century. It quickly found its way to the prosperous Dutch Republic, where it was initially a botanical curiosity among scientists and wealthy collectors. This exotic flower was new, rare, and captivating, making it an instant symbol of status and sophistication. As a recently introduced and fashionable item, owning tulips signified refined taste and considerable wealth, setting the stage for its eventual transformation into a luxury commodity. For instance, early on, a single bulb might be traded for an entire year's salary of a skilled craftsman, showcasing its exclusivity from the very beginning. The allure wasn't just aesthetic. It was also about displaying one's ability to acquire something so unique and foreign. This scarcity and novelty were crucial ingredients in the developing infatuation that would soon grip the nation. To truly grasp how tulips became so potent, we must understand the economic environment of the Dutch Republic. The 17th century was a golden age for the Netherlands, a period of unprecedented prosperity and global influence. With the highest per capita income in the world from around 16 to 1720, the Dutch were at the forefront of international trade and finance. Amsterdam was a bustling hub of commerce, its merchants establishing vast trading networks stretching across continents. This wealthy society, with its burgeoning middle class and sophisticated financial markets, created fertile ground for speculation. People had disposable income and a culture of enterprise, making them receptive to new investment opportunities, no matter how unconventional. The Republic's strong economy and general optimism allowed for a collective willingness to engage in increasingly risky ventures. A typical merchant, having profited handsomely from spice trade or shipping, might then look for other avenues to multiply their riches. But this era of prosperity only explains the what and why tulips took center stage is an even stranger story. Tulips transitioned from mere garden specimens to highly sought-after commodities, especially varieties displaying broken or variegated petals. These unique patterns, streaks, flames, and feathers of contrasting colors, were caused by a virus, though this was unknown at the time. Instead, these broken tulips, like the famous Semper Augustus with its deep red streaks on a white background, were prized for their perceived rarity and exquisite beauty. They became ultimate status symbols, traded and displayed as proof of one's affluence and discerning taste. This shift transformed the bulbs into objects of pure speculative trade, detached from any practical or even intrinsic botanical value. People weren't just buying flowers, they were buying bragging rights and a piece of fleeting beauty. For example, a single bulb of the Viceroy variety was once exchanged for a package of goods, including 2 lasts of wheat, 4 lasts of rye, 4 fat oxen, 8 fat swine, 12 fat sheep, 2 hogsheads of wine, 4 tons of beer, 2 tons of butter, 1,000 pounds of cheese, a complete bed, a suit of... This extensive list demonstrates the profound divergence between the object itself and its perceived market value, illustrating the complete absurdity of the situation as the mania deepened. The virus, unknowingly, was the unintentional catalyst for this bizarre re-evaluation of worth. The true frenzy, the major acceleration, began in 1634. At this point, the trade moved beyond physical bulbs to a futures market where contracts for bulbs, not the bulbs themselves, were bought and sold. This allowed for even greater speculation, as buyers could trade promises of bulbs that hadn't even been harvested yet, amplifying the rapid rise in prices. Ordinary people, seeing their neighbors grow rich overnight, began to mortgage their homes and invest their life savings in tulip contracts. Prices for some bulbs, particularly the most broken varieties, reached extraordinarily high levels, defying all rational economic sense. One account details how the price of the Semper Augustus's tulip bulb rose to over 5,000 guilders, a sum equivalent to the cost of a grand house on an Amsterdam canal. The pursuit of easy wealth overshadowed any concern for actual value, creating a self-perpetuating cycle of inflated prices fueled by optimistic buyers. People genuinely believed the prices would just keep going up indefinitely, a classic symptom of a speculative bubble in full swing. This fever pitch couldn't last forever, and the inevitable crash was just around the corner, waiting to dismantle this floral fantasy. The dramatic collapse arrived swiftly and decisively in February 1637. What triggered the pop is debated, but a sudden lack of buyers at an auction or a general loss of confidence likely started a chain reaction. As prices began to dip, panic set in. Those who had borrowed heavily to invest were desperate to sell their contracts. But suddenly, there were no buyers willing to pay anything close to the inflated prices. The market evaporated almost overnight. Fortunes were lost, and many faced ruin as their tulip contracts became worthless. This swift and sudden event marked the first recorded speculative bubble or asset bubble in history, a stark lesson in economic irrationality. While individually devastating for some surprisingly, it had no critical influence on the prosperity of the Dutch Republic as a whole. The nation's robust economy absorbed the shock, treating it more as an unknown socio-economic rather than a true economic crisis. Unlike later, larger crashes, it didn't destabilize the entire national economy, largely due to its localized and somewhat niche impact. Tulip Mania stands as a fascinating and cautionary tale from economic history. It highlights how human psychology, driven by herd mentality and the allure of easy wealth, can inflate an asset's price far beyond its intrinsic value. While it didn't cripple the Dutch Republic, its legacy endures. The term Tulip Mania is now frequently used metaphorically to describe any large economic bubble where asset prices deviate wildly from fundamental values. From the dot-com bubble to recent crypto frenzies, the echoes of those 17th-century tulips resonate, reminding us that even in sophisticated markets, sentiment can often override logic. It's a vivid illustration that the biggest risk might not be the market itself, but our own collective beliefs about it. So, the next time you see a beautiful flower, perhaps reflect on its actual worth, and the lessons learned when flowers cost more than houses. Stay curious and question perceived value.